Hey everybody. So today we have my good friend Munish. Munish has a very extensive, incredible career. He's worked at Tata, he's worked at Bain, he's worked at HP, Equinox, and recently he was at LinkedIn and served as the COO to American Sales Solution. Currently, Munish has started a phenomenal startup called Productiv, and we will definitely get into that. Productiv has been backed by Class A VCs like Axel, has raised $8 million so far, and he has a phenomenal story. So Munish, thank you so much for joining us, and I am so excited to jump right into this and hear your story.
Thanks, Ephraim, for the kind words and introduction.
So Munish, before this whole incredible journey that you have into the startup ecosystem, building Productiv, working on LinkedIn, and everything you've done before, let's take a step back. Let's go all the way back down to deep into the water, and let's figure out where are you from and what was your upbringing like?
Absolutely. So I grew up in India, in the capital city, New Delhi. Both my parents worked for the Indian government. So we're talking about India in mid-70s, where it was a socialist economy. So some of the things etched in my memory are we had to wait in long queues sometimes to get like basic things like milk, and there were power shortages, there were water shortages. I think those things I'm talking about now because they left a big impression on what I wanted my life to be, essentially. But that's how I grew. On the positive side, I grew in a very loving and caring family where my parents came from even more humble backgrounds and really valued education above everything else. And they inculcated in both me and my sister a strong desire to learn and grow. Right? It's not about academics that you have to get good grades, etc. I don't think my parents ever pushed me to, hey, why are you not getting a good grade in math, etc. But it was all about learning. And I think that's what sort of juxtaposed those two things, saying we didn't have a lot of things growing up in lower middle class, but at the same time, I felt that I was always getting better at everything I did. And that was the foundation of what I am today, essentially.
Wow. I mean, that's absolutely incredible to have that type of upbringing, support. You know, a lot of times, like you said, in India, it could be a special focus on the grades and getting into the top school. But having that sense of being able to experience that curiosity and allowing it to grow. So let me ask you, when you see kids coming out of India today, coming to the States and, what do you think? Like, it's a totally separate ballgame.
Yeah, I think India has changed a lot. Like today, when I talk to young kids who are graduating, like we just hired somebody who is 20 years my junior into Productiv. And they have a different sense of confidence. They grew up in a liberated India where there were options when they came out of college. And like their parents, their generation also was not as conservative and as limited in what they had access to. So in the kids today coming out of colleges in India, I see optimism, I see confidence. I see that can-do belief that I can actually change the world. So many startups are happening in India, and that to me is as much about attitude as as about capability. Essentially, I think capability is similar. I don't think kids are sharper today as they were many years ago, but that can-do attitude is definitely very refreshing to see.
Right. I mean, that's amazing. As you know, India is a very risk-averse country. And to see that whole attitude change now, like the biggest thing that a college student wants to do coming out of IIT, IIM, or anywhere else, even in the US, is to start a startup, which is amazing. So when you were a child, what was your biggest dream? Growing up, the conditions that you had, what was the biggest dream that you had back then?
I think it changed. It kept on changing as to what my dream was. But I always had that desire to travel. I wanted to experience the world. I wanted to learn. And that was the main curiosity factor. Experience different cultures, different people. So I saw myself in a world where I'll be doing that. I did not have any specific ambition about this is like I want to be an engineer or a businessman or like a juggler, whatever the craft may be. But it was just a strong desire to learn and to know more people and to experience different things.
Well, I guess you can give yourself a pat on the back. It seems like you accomplished it, So take us in your journey. If you stay in India, you go to university there, and then you come to the States.
Yeah.
So fill us in your journey to coming to the States and your path all the way in a short synopsis to LinkedIn.
Absolutely. So I think I spent the first about 8-10 years of my career in a variety of very technical roles. And the reason I got into those technical roles is just because I was an engineer by education. Really liked the problem-solving aspect of engineering, writing code, and it works, it's magic. But at some point in that journey, I got into the sales and commercial side of technology and enjoyed it even more. And I said, okay, I'm in the wrong profession. I'm not the behind computer guy. I want to be in front of the computer guy who goes, talks to people, talks solutions, talks change. And that's when I decided to pivot to a business school education and made a pretty strong right turn career-wise. So I spent now the last 10 years of my career in very non-technical roles, like at LinkedIn, it was all about sales, scaling operations, and whatnot. But even prior to that, I got my foundational business training at Bain & Company, which is a top-tier strategy consulting firm. So the way I got to like LinkedIn was all about very deliberate, finding what got me excited, which in my case at some point was not being the core technologies, but being the problem solver, the one who is really keen about growing and building a business.
How hard was that transition from becoming the person, providing the support to the person becoming that sales engineer?
Because I think to me, I'm very, very goal-driven,
Okay.
hardworking, and I think I'm a biggest backer in the sense that I'm my biggest cheerleader. Like I put my heart and soul into things, and then I tell myself you can do it, right? So I think those things were always hard, but taking my engineering structured thinking approach, I break down things into these are the 3 things I need to do to be a good sales engineer, let's say, right? That I need to work on my communication skills, because at the end of the day, I'm deeply introverted, but at some point I made a very deliberate effort to be extroverted. I need to work on simplifying how I communicate. So break things down, and then be authentic, be genuine in how you relate to people. Those are the core skills that you need to be a sales engineer or a salesperson. Like it's not about I'm going to convince you to buy something you don't need. Right? It's about just you have your own unique point of view of the world that you're trying to convince somebody else. So I think to me, everything comes down to be clear on what you want, break it down in your own way, and then work on the individual components. Right. Things will come together.
Right. You just brought up an amazing point, and so it just popped into my head right now that I'd love you to elaborate on. You said the way you were able to tackle specific things, let's say, for example, becoming a salesperson, was taking the communication aspect, breaking it down. Okay, what are the components of communication that I need to work on in bite-sized projects? Being more authentic, or being able to build rapport with people. It's like essentially it's a marathon, not a sprint, 1 foot at a time. So what is your goal setting process? How do you go about that?
Sure. So maybe since you're talking about entrepreneurship, right? Let me tell you a story about how I became an entrepreneur. So back in 2017, I was super convinced that I had limited time left with me at LinkedIn in terms of my engagement, etc. So I thought about how do I start a company, right? So that to me was a goal that I want to do that, but I don't know how. So I said the first thing I'm going to do is learn. So I talked to a lot of other entrepreneurs in terms of how they got their start. Like when was T0 or T-5 for them? And the different ways you start a company. You can have a very clear product idea, a personal pain point, or you want to start a company, with people because you're intrinsically motivated to start a company, or you just get pulled into it because of other external factors, right? So those are different paths. For me, the first goal was to be an entrepreneur. Is like, how do I start? So learn about how do I start a company, and clearly quickly I established that I want to start a company with complementary people. I am very good at certain things I do, but I'm not good at other things. So I want to partner with, like-minded people who have complementary skills, right? So that to me became a very clear goal that if I would now do that, how do I find those people? So I went back to my network and said, hey, do you know somebody who wants to start a company? Literally that organic. And, met a bunch of very interesting people. And that's how I found my co-founders.
Right.
So to me, the goal setting is about be very clear on what you want to accomplish, learn what are the tangible things you want to do, and then go for it. Right. And that's the sort of a rinse and repeat process.
Right. So once you're ready on that topic, the entrepreneur, let's start from there.
Sure.
The idea for Productiv, Productiv is an amazing company, but beforehand, you're at LinkedIn. You're at an incredible company else. You're the chief of staff to the head of sales America. You're the CEO over there. Why take that crazy risk? Why take that jump into the unknown? So who knows if you'll be in business tomorrow or not? And the entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I'm sure you've heard of this thing called the Maslow's need hierarchy, right? So basically, when I grew up, it was very much at the food, not as much, but almost at the food, clothing, shelter, being nourished state. Over time, as I continue to grow professionally, I think to me, really the self-actualization in a professional career is to build something from scratch. It's not the same thing for everybody, but I thought very deeply. I actually worked with an executive coach as well, like deeply what would give me professional satisfaction. And it was clear that no matter what I accomplish at LinkedIn, it will not give me the professional satisfaction because there'll always be a cog in the wheel. I wanted to be the wheel myself. And I think for me, I thought if I can do it once, where I can build something from scratch and make it my own, I would feel very accomplished. And the privileged times we live in, if we don't take risks and go for what we want, then, when will we? So things are going incredibly well at LinkedIn. Like I think I was at my peak professional performance there, which people said, and why would you do it? But to me, the flip side is that is exactly the time that you leave something to do your own thing because things are going incredibly well. You have the wind behind your back. You have the confidence in the word that you can achieve anything. So I think all those factors kind of contributed to timing. I was not ready to LinkedIn 2 years ago, but now I was very ready because things were going so well.
Right. So then you decided to take that leap. So where did the idea for Productiv come about from?
Yes, I think the way I approached Productiv is that I was clear that I want to first find a team to build a company with. So first I found my two co-founders, like Jody, who was at Google for about 10 years or so, and Ashish. He and I went to one of the same IITs back in India many, many years ago. And we essentially figured out Ashish is more the engineering leader mindset. Jody is more the product visionary mindset. I'm more the operations sales mindset. So it was a very complementary team. And then we sat down and I said, let's think about all the big secular trends happening. Where are we uniquely positioned to have a view on how things will evolve, where there's a meaningful business to be built? We went through about 5 ideas, went deep into all of them, talked to a lot of people, understanding change, understanding what value we can create, and quickly came to the conclusion Productiv is the right idea to put all our energies behind. Right. So that's sort of, how we come to the idea.
And the idea is amazing. And for people that don't know, what Productiv does is that it essentially, I'm sure you will explain it better. So I'll let you go ahead and explain it.
Absolutely. So what has happened in the last 10 odd years is that there's massive transformation in enterprise IT. Back in the day, you were very deliberate. You would think about what systems I need as a company. You would run an RFP, hire some vendors, some consultants to build it for you, and then roll it out. To circa today, when a lot of the software is more cloud-based, driven as software as a service, so you are not able to do that deliberate process. People are actually bringing in software more and more into the enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, it's a very positive trend for businesses because it leads to agility, right? I can make faster decisions because I don't have to wait 1 year to implement new software. It also leads to better customer engagement. You're able to transform your business. However, with the SaaS, a new set of problems have emerged. One, because it's so easy to buy, I have too much of it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how people are actually using, what is the business value it's creating. Fundamentally, if there's one thing we do as Productiv, we help you understand for all different applications that you have in your enterprise, what's the business impact they are creating? How are your employees adopting those solutions? Are they helping your employees be more productive or not? Mm-hmm. That's core to what we do. Now, the way we do it is that we give you very deep engagement or adoption insights into all these different products. We tell you everything that is being used in your company. Mm-hmm. And by the way, because of the way SaaS is purchased, there's often a lot of excess, as in you buy more than you need. So we help you right size what you spend on it. So those are the three core value props. But the core goal that we do is we help you understand engagement on different software tools so you can influence and impact employee productivity.
Right.
That's how we name the company Productiv.
Incredible. And I think that's something that definitely needs to be implemented among many companies. So tell us about some of the early struggles. You guys are relatively new. You're 2 years old. You've raised $8 million already from Axel. Talk to me about some of the early struggles you guys went through. The days that you woke up with that pit in your stomach and you're like, forget about it. It's all going to hell. We're breaking down. Talk to me about
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the earliest struggles we had is there are three of us, very experienced, operators in our own fields. So one of the early struggles is how do we make decisions? So for example, at some point we hired our first employee. How do we evaluate that? Is this employee a good fit for us or not? So how do we do we write down everything? Do we do investment memos kind of a thing? And then we quickly anchored on that we need to align on what are our culture and values. This is very, very early before we hired anybody, before we raised funding. So we spent a full day thinking about this is how we are going to operate. These are the values that matter to us. Because before that, things were bumpy. Like we would disagree and argue, and a lot of times those arguments were not constructive. Mm-hmm. So I think then we started leaning more and more on our values and channeling the values as a way to drive alignment across three founders. Right? I think one thing which is unique about us as a founding team is that we've never worked together before. Mm-hmm. Right? So when you work with people, you understand how they operate. We didn't have that benefit. So I think the first 3 months or so, we spent a lot of time building mutual trust, figuring out how we'll make decisions. Right. That was one of the early struggles that we had.
Mm. So as a first-time entrepreneur, what have you learned so far?
Oh boy, a lot of things. I mean, entrepreneurship is hard, right? You need to be clear on what you are good at and what really your secret weapon is, because that will help you, get through those hard times. Like, for example, my secret weapon is that I have a lot of grit. I'm very focused. I know what I want, and I know how, and I break things down. So I break into like how I'm going to go about getting what I want. Right. So I think to me, it is not the same for everyone. For someone else, it's maybe that I'm very visionary. I'm good at storytelling. So figure out what you are good at. I think that's fundamental to being successful as an entrepreneur, because in my opinion, you don't become successful by covering what you're weak at. You become successful by really leaning into what you're really good at, because people like energy and passion. At the end of the day, all your early customers, early employees, they're not investing in your idea. They're investing in you as a person. So you have to have that authenticity about what makes you great and why should people choose to work with you.
Right. I can already feel that passion and energy from you across over here. So, so being that, how, coming from LinkedIn into entrepreneurship, I'm assuming the transition must have been hard, from reporting to somebody else and not reporting to anyone, from having I mean, obviously now you have goals, but from having goal setting and to the bureaucracy, everything comes together with it. Now you don't have, how is that transition from LinkedIn into entrepreneurship?
I think, the biggest, multiple things, right? So one was that nobody is doing goal setting for you. So there's no corporate mandate, right? So essentially, we spend a lot of time thinking about how do we figure out what our goals are, and we decide to standardize on something called the OKR process. Companies like LinkedIn, Google use OKRs to align across different teams on what are we trying to do this quarter versus next quarter, etc., etc. So figuring out how we plan work and how we align was a big part of the early days. So that is one big thing. Second is that I think learning how to do certain new things which I've never done. For example, we had to buy insurance, like cyber insurance, because our first customer mandated that we should have cyber insurance. Now at LinkedIn, I would have asked my legal team, hey, this customer wants this, like go buy insurance. And there would be somebody in finance who would have an expert, we would hire a consultant. As an entrepreneur, I had to do it myself. So basically I picked the phone, went into my network, I asked 3-4 people, how do you buy it? What matters? Do you know any vendors? And then you quickly go with your gut to see this person I spoke with sounded very authentic, and you go with that. So in 2 days, we basically, got everything we needed from an insurance standpoint, got our first customer contract signed. So to me, I think that bias for quick action, that resourcefulness to find the information that you need to make quick decisions, and then getting it done. I think to me, that is the crux of the early days of entrepreneurship, because there's so many new things which keep hitting at you, which you have not done. Like any entrepreneur, in the first 6 months, will do a lot of things first time.
Right.
And success and ability to move at speed is about, again, being resourceful. Like you should know how you're quickly going to get stuff done.
Right. And like you mentioned, you have that grit. You need to have that grit, not just for yourself, but to overcome all struggles and hurdles that will come along your way, because you will bounce into them. It's just incredible, like how far you guys have come so far. And, a lot of times when a company starts off, there's always there's a few questions. The first question is when to ship out the product. Do you ship it out when you have when you have a prototype, or do you wait till you have a perfect product, which you never have a perfect product? What's the core strategy to acquiring that first customer? What have you found that has worked for you guys that you think another startup in an earlier stage can implement for them?
Sure. So I think a couple of things. One is that if you're very early, people are investing in you. So people don't buy solutions. Like, again, what do you not have when you're early stage startup? You don't have a fully baked product. The product you're still building.
Right.
What you do have though is, if you're focused, you have a very good problem definition. So in early days, you are selling problems, you're not selling solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So being very articulate and finding the early adopters for your solution, but people who feel passionate about the problem you're trying to solve is very, very important. Because those are the people who will give you the benefit of, yes, the product is not there, but actually this problem matters so much to me that I want to be a partner with you to solve this problem.
Right.
So I think kind of picking your early customers right is very, very important, because they will show you the way on how to solve the problem. Right? That's sort of one early element of getting started. I think second is that most of the startups, right, they are about, this is what we are trying to accomplish. This is a multi-year vision, right? Where sometimes things get very challenging is translating that into what I'm going to do this quarter, this month, this week. So in the first 6 months of our company, we did weekly OKRs, because we're always learning. We're trying to get into a rhythm and a cadence. As in, like, this is what you're going to accomplish this week. So you can argue that may felt like micromanagement amongst ourselves. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? But I think it helped a lot in terms of driving alignment, saying, this is what I'm learning, this is what you are learning, and let's keep very tightly aligned. At some point, we did not even say, hey, we are going to move from weekly to monthly. The weekly meetings disappeared because we were all reasonably clear on what we are working on, what our mutual dependencies are. So the weekly cadence shifted to a monthly cadence automatically. It was not like you said, we're done with the weekly cadence, right? And I think at some point, similarly, we are very much on a monthly cadence. Now we align every month, but we move to a quarterly cadence, because as more and more, as ambiguity goes down, you can be more prescriptive on how you plan your work, right? In the early days of a startup, is the most ambiguity. You don't know what you're building. right?
Mm-hmm.
You have an idea, but like the first shell of a product, like the first time we stood up, like, hey, here's our home page, right? It's such a wonderful feeling. But you're like, well, nobody's going to use it. Right? So, what is the next iteration was the immediate question. So I think, again, just to sort of to bring it back, you asked a great question. I think the two things which really matter in early days is how do you drive like alignment around what everybody is working on, and how do you take that multi-year vision into weekly, monthly goals so you don't lose your way.
Right.
Things that matter.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just incredible to see that, you came from LinkedIn, Jody comes from Google, and the other guy comes from also extensive, right?
Yeah.
To all you bunch together and to take that entrepreneurial risk, mid career, I guess you could say, to know that people think these days that you have to, millennials, we want to be rich from day one. We want to build Facebook from day one. We don't have 10 years to wait. And to see that the journey is a lifelong journey, that, you can work until you're 40 or 30, get that 20 years experience and then go ahead and launch a startup. It's such an incredible lesson that we youngsters need to implement into our own lives and learn from that. Entrepreneurship is a 10, 20-year journey. It's not. So based off your experience, having worked for many companies, what would you recommend for someone, I guess, either coming out of university or someone mid-career getting into entrepreneurship? Is it something you believe that they should go work for a company for many years, or they should jump into something if they're very passionate about it?
Yeah, so I think, to me, if you're truly an entrepreneur, one quality you must have is that you're constantly disrupting yourself and you're constantly learning.
Mm-hmm.
So in every company that I've had, I made a very deliberate effort to get into a different job every 12, 18 months. It's very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It can be perceived as, it can limit your career growth because you're constantly changing, evolving. But to me, I think that breadth of experience is very, very important as an entrepreneur. And that's number one advice I'll give you, that try and get a lot of cross-functional experience, right? Second thing is that as you're making these career choices, I think it's perfectly fine to have a long career and then go into entrepreneurship. But really be very deliberate about, what role you think you will play as an entrepreneur. So you have to have like a core pillar, like, again, going back to what are you really good at?
Mm-hmm.
And, and how you're going to be best at, what you do, because you will need that to build a company to attract people around you. So focus on both that, but go very deep into whatever specific skills that matter. And then third is like pick wisely in what companies you work for. So I'll give a lot of credit to LinkedIn as very, very strong culture, very collaborative, but very much a place where you are given a lot of opportunities to do different things, and management is structured that way. So to find the right employers, that matters a lot, because that is what will give you opportunities to learn and explore. So like the culture of the company, I think is to pick wisely there. And then like it's totally fine to do like some side hustles. Test yourself. Like, can you be an entrepreneur? Like, I was very deliberate in taking on a lot of new things. I tried to do a side business when I was prior to when I was at LinkedIn, just to see what does it feel like. Do I have it in me, right? So one thing that continue to challenge yourself. You don't have to be an entrepreneur, leave your job, and then test that. Can you do it? You can do it with a job.
Right. Munish, it seems like that you love to approach, get challenges, accept challenges, take it on. So you had the opportunity to meet an Olympian, Kerry Walsh Jennings, and you wrote a great blog post about, 3 things that you learned, and you categorize it in, are you moving forward? Are you passionate? And do you think you will succeed? And you transition that into lessons in entrepreneurship. So if you could elaborate a little bit more about that and your experience of meeting her.
No, absolutely. I think I was, she's somebody who had gone through some personal challenges in terms of should I continue to be in a sport. And she was sharing that story, which really got me intrigued. That when you're so accomplished, right? How do you continue to challenge yourself? Was the context of my conversation with her, because I was really asking her, like, you already have a gold medal. Why do you want to go back out there then when you're struggling with some personal stuff, but also with some physical injury and whatnot? Like, it's extremely hard, right? So basically, end of the day, when things are going hard for you, how do you make decisions, right? And that is how sort of I frame what she said into, like, are you moving forward, which goes back into, like, are you learning? Does it fit into a bigger, like, plan you have for yourself? I think that's very, very important, right? And I think that whole are you moving forward is sort of goes back to a little bit of goal setting that I talked about earlier. That I had this set of goals. Now do I want to challenge myself to continue there? Then I think passionate. Are you being passionate? I think it matters a lot, because when you're down, you may have tremendous grit, but you need passion to overcome that. Not everybody you seek out for help, or not everybody you reach out to will respond to you.
Right.
They're busy, or they may have something else going on. But understanding yourself, what drives you, it's very, very important, because if you don't have passion, I think at some point you'll get disappointed, right? So that, to me, passion is like extreme confidence in yourself to go after what you care for. I think that does, and I clearly in career I felt that passion, that strong desire to go through, daily drills and whatnot. I think also the third one is interesting, is that, like, you may know what you want to achieve, you may have the passion, but intrinsically, we are all humans, and we are driven by success. You have to have a point of view on what that means. What does success mean to you? For me, success is trying. Success is not about being successful, right? Success is trying. Like, I gave it my all, and then if things don't go my way, I'm still my biggest cheerleader. I back myself. I'm saying, you tried very hard, and outcomes don't matter. What we control is what we put in. And again, I got that similar vibe, from Kerry, that I'm going to show up as the best version of myself today and every day.
Right.
What happens to me, I don't control. So I think that's a sense of, like, how I have that, I think, and how she talked about it, that got me really engaged and interested in that conversation, which I thought there are some lessons there that I would love to, like, share with others.
Right. Munish, I think you're in the wrong career. You got to become a positive psychologist, or get into, like, like a Tony Robbins type of thing,
No,
You have it in having that self-confidence, believing in yourself, having the grit, knowing that hard times are going to come along, and to push forward through that. And, believing that you're not in control. You can't control the outcomes, like you just mentioned, are such important lessons, so important, that we need to implement into our own lives. I'm assuming you have, being the person that you are, that enjoys learning and constant challenging, you must have incredible mentors. Who are your mentors and people that have made a difference in your life?
Absolutely. I think early days, I think my mom was my parents, but more my mom than my dad, was a mentor to me. Like, I still think that a lot of the core tenets of how I operate every day, which is very hardworking but very optimistic always. I learned early days of my life from my mother. From there, like, I still remember when I was preparing for the IITs, I went to a coaching institute, and there was this teacher there, and they had a big influence on me in terms of what you're trying to do is hard. And the way you achieve something hard is by working hard. It's a very simple message, but that's what, they would always say, that, this is not easy. And I, as a teacher, I demand complete dedication to the goal. I mean, if you don't commit to me, I'm not going to teach you.
Right.
I think that's again a very, very important life lesson that if you're committing to be like to someone to be your mentor, then that means something. And then I treat that person as a mentor. So I think those are like the early formative days before I went to college. And then since then, I've had the good fortune of having a lot of professional mentors as well. There's this individual I worked with at LinkedIn. It's very difficult to both like demand excellence from people, which means sometimes you have to be harsh, saying you're not doing your best job, but at the same time, building relationships with people, as in where they want to work with you. And this individual had this this very powerful combination of doing both. And I think I've learned so much from him about how do you build relationships, but at the same time be very be very specific and direct in terms of giving feedback. I had the fortune of having an executive coach who brought a lot of clarity of thoughts to me, as in always ask the next level of questions, right? Because like we would talk for hours and about like what do you want? What's your plan? A lot of times I think I would say like to me a big part of mentorship is that you try to understand people's motivations. So I think this executive coach actually helped me a lot in terms of understanding what my true motivations were, because we don't like to again, at least my observation is that as humans, very few people share what they really want.
Mm-hmm.
They have a plan, but we are programmed not to overshare. I think to me that was an important lesson, that when I engage with other people, really understand what makes them happy, what makes them tick, and that helps to build more meaningful personal and professional relationships. So all those mentors have, helped shape how I think, how I prioritize
right.
My work and personal life.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to ask you to be my mentor, but we'll talk about it afterwards. Talk about it later. So when you're looking back in hindsight, are there certain specific points in your career that you can point to that made a drastic difference, or some, bumping into somebody or something happened that took you to the next level?
Well, I think there were quite a few pivotal moments. Like I think, again, early days, I still firmly believe that when I was 10 years old, there was a point when I understood how math and logic works. Mm-hmm. And that changed me forever. Like I'm a very logical, rational person. I always think in terms of steps and breaking down problems and whatnot. I got that skill early on from my mother, and that is like foundational to everything I do, and everything I've learned so far is that, based on that. I think roll forward, I'm indebted a lot to my undergraduate friends. To me, that was growing up, and that formed my view on life. Like, how do I think about life and, accomplishments? How am I going to operate in the society? Am I going to be a social community-based person or not? I think that is another pivotal moment. Like when you go to undergrad, I think that's when you mature and start forming your own worldview. Roll forward, I think going to business school was a big decision. So there was a good friend of mine who helped me think through, is that the right decision for me personally? And me coming to a realization that I am going to be a much more successful business person than I would ever be a technologist. So that again was a big pivotal moment professionally. And the whole experience itself, like as compared to undergrad, I think I was a much stronger, more engaged student at business school. And that I think again has helped me a lot to do well professionally. And then finally, in terms of how we operate as organizations, I think LinkedIn overall, the experience of being a very culture and value driven organization, how do you instrument that at such a large scale, left an imprint on me on, how do we organize socially, and how do you understand people's motivations, become like a people first versus a results first person. Because just the way I operate, I used to be much more about, this is what we want to do. Mm-hmm. Now it's more about, this is how we want to do it, which is very much a people first approach. Mm-hmm. So those are all like moments. Maybe you were looking for 3, but I had like 10. So
I'll take as many as I can get.
Yeah. It was funny, like, I think, like putting it all together. Like for me, entrepreneurship is all about being putting it all together. I've learned tremendously from my two co-founders in the last couple of 1.5 years since we have gotten to meet each other, and we are very different people. A lot of shared values, but the way they think about the same problem is very different. Like one of them comes from purely a very technical background, always like what problems you're trying to solve. My other co-founder comes from what are we going towards, and I come from what can we do today. Like, it's very complementary way of thinking, and you're always that way making good decisions, I would say.
I got to understand this. You have such a practical, rational approach to the day-to-day basis of life in order to solve issues. At the same time, you're so visionary. How come we don't blog? You got to blog and write these things out. You have so many lessons you could give over to people.
Over time, I think right now I'm really focused on making Productiv a very successful venture. But definitely, I think whenever I'm done with the Productiv journey, I hopefully will be in a place where I am doing a lot more mentoring and coaching, because that is my next play. I really enjoy engaging people, writing, and that definitely is where I'm going to pivot to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that book, by Munish Gandhi, on how Productiv came into the IPO story or something.
You're being very kind here, Ephraim.
So, what are some of the non-obvious habits that have made a difference in your life?
That's a great question. Non-obvious habit. I can tell you one, right? So when you grew up in India, there's a lot of learning by rote. As in, you remember this, and then you kind of, that's how you answer questions and whatnot. But in that process, I think I've developed a very good memory. So I remember a lot of trivial things.
Okay.
And so it's a very, I would say in some ways, an unusual habit. How it helps, interestingly, if I reflect on it, is, in relationships, people, when we remember what we have done with people, it matters a lot. It leads to a much stronger bond.
Right.
It will be simple things that, you wrote something, and I remember that. You meet somebody in a social gathering, and immediately when you tell people about some shared experience, there's an immediate bonding that happens. And I think that helps to accelerate building relationships with people. It's just like, I remember, you did this, or we did this together. I think that's a very maybe atypical habit, but I just somehow have this tendency of remembering things.
Right.
I don't know if it makes sense.
No, it does. It definitely does. Having good memory and remembering such episodes is always great.
Yeah.
So if we were to look back at Munish, a child in India running around, graduating IIT, just coming out of university, what message would we tell him? The world is open to him. He could go to Silicon Valley, start a startup. He could, go ahead and become a cricket player. And he could just stay in India, work behind the counter in a grocery store. What message do we tell your younger self?
I think I would say that you should do what you feel confident about and where you think you will be successful. I think that is I don't think I had that clarity, when I was growing up, and a lot of decisions I made were following a pattern. That I was good in math and science, so I ended up being an engineer. I wanted to, everybody in my graduating class was getting into software, so I got into software. But I was not deliberate about some of the early career choices I made. I think that's the number one advice I give people. Even now, when I'm interviewing some very young candidates, I tell them that startup journey is tough and hard. So be confident that you're going to be good at it, that you really care about ambiguity, you really care about autonomy, because that's what you get in a startup. You don't get that at a Google or a Facebook. So be clear on what you want and then go after it methodically. I spent about 20 plus years professionally before starting a company, and I absolutely have no regrets at this stage of my career, because finally I think I was ready to start a company. I was not ready 10 years ago, even though I had an aspiration for the longest time. So it goes back to, you should have confidence that you really want to do something.
Right. Wow. I have to ask. I have to ask you. Being such a growth-oriented mindset, what are some practical lessons that someone can do, or maybe could point them in the right direction in becoming better and learning more? Maybe in sales, maybe in entrepreneurship, maybe just in general in life. What avenues can they go to become a better version of themselves, for themselves?
I think it's always good to pause and think. Right? For example, like every time, we have a great sales meeting, or on the flip side, when things don't go well, I always pause and if I'm with somebody, make sure that we discuss like what went well, what do we need to do more of, or what do we need to change. Right. So I think a lot of times we get so busy doing one thing after the next that you miss that that internalization on of what's going well. A lot of times when I'm meeting the prospects for the first time, I give them a totally different pitch and see how it works. Right. I think to me that's learning, right? So don't be afraid of trying new things, and be very purpose driven. Saying something didn't go well, so I'm going to do something drastically different. Internalize that and keep learning, keep iterating. I think to me that is deep. Whether you're in a sales context, whether in a technical role, I think that is very important. And the learning comes from awareness, essentially saying, what can I do better, different?
Right. And that translates into everything else in life, into your own personal values, your own personal goals, your own growth, which is incredible. Wow, Munish, I just want to hang around with you all day. That's it.
It's very, very kind.
That's it. So much to offer. Munish, this has been absolutely incredible. I have learned a tremendous amount, not just about Productiv, not just about you, but about life in general, approaching goals in a meticulous, specific way, breaking it down to tiny little bits, be that visionary, but at the same time, be practical and rational for today, for now. So many lessons, and it's not even a doubt in my mind that this is going to help so many people. So I want to thank you very much for your time and for everything that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ephraim, again for the time spending talking to me. And I really hope that this will reach some people. And even if it impacts one person to be a better version of themselves, I think this is a success, a good use of time.
100%. And it goes without saying, if there's anything that I can do for you or for Productiv, please never hesitate to reach out.
Likewise. Awesome.